Screen.
Okay, welcome back to Complete QB Live. Coach O'Flaherty, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, thank you. Excited to get another week going.
Fired up, Coach. I think our audio is a heck of a lot better than it was last week, Coach, so that's really good news. And I think everything's ready to roll here. I think the Slick Rick poster behind me is a little askew, Coach. It looks like it's a little off-center.
That's all right.
But we'll in the post-production meeting, we'll go over that. Exciting show because we got a bunch of stuff that's going to happen tonight. One of the things that I want us to try and focus on here, Coach, is every week we're going to try and talk a little bit about NFL, a little bit about college quarterbacks, because it's everybody right now is starved for every kind of football. There's just nothing out there. We had some nice spring professional football went by the boards. No spring high school and college football to deal with. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about 2020 transfer FBS quarterbacks. We know that that's a pretty hot topic. It feels like this year the prominent number of guys that are out and available is pretty significant. I don't think I can remember a year where we had that many potential guys that were going to be available, Coach. After that, we're going to jump into some of the stuff that we can do in the screen game. We're going to talk a little bit about drill stuff. Why? Because it's my pet project. It's this time of the year, and we don't really have the opportunity, the time to talk technique that much with the screen game. And so now's a good time for us to address that a little bit. And then last but not least, Coach, I know you're excited about this. I know you're excited for our guest tonight for sure.
Yep.
He's a pretty special guy, and he's somebody that's quite familiar to Complete QB. Our guest is going to be Ryan Larsen from Columbia University, our quarterbacks coach over there at Columbia. So we're really excited to talk with him, do some fun things there. Coach, we got Complete QB trivia on tap. I got to tell the world, and I'm going to remind Coach Larson what went on with Complete QB trivia in the pre-production meeting Monday night, and who fell down on the job. We'll talk a little bit about some of the features we got coming up in the coming weeks. We'll let you know about next week's guest. So excited to get this done, Coach. Let's jump into the stuff with the 2020 quarterbacks. All right, Coach. Now there's a bunch of them out there. There's a ton of them out there. I'm going to run it down just for the folks at home so they can see what we have in terms of all the quarterbacks that are out there. It's a long list, Coach, of guys that are making the jump. No doubt. I'm going to start with Derek King, who's moving from University of Houston, where he had a breakout year in 2018, and then just redshirted this year. I don't know what happened, but he wasn't around, and he redshirted. So that's an interesting thing to see as he makes a jump from an American Athletic Conference to a bigger school. Another guy we have is Jake Bentley, who had a really up and down career at South Carolina, who's also going to see if he can get things right and get on track. We'll talk a little bit with Coach Larson a little bit about what's so impressive about the quarterback position, or I should say unique about the quarterback position for sure. A guy named Jamie Newman has big shoes to fill for Jake Fromm at University of Georgia. He's coming over from Wake Forest, where he put together a couple really good years, and he's using the graduate transfer kind of avenue to make a jump as well. A guy that you and I talked a little bit about the other night, Coach, is KJ Costello, who's going to move from Stanford, where he was an entrenched starter and then wasn't, and then wound up being a guy who's struggling to stay healthy, stay on the field, and all those things. And now he's going to take his act to the SEC. Another guy is who made a mini name for himself in 2018 with Clemson, when Chase Bryce led them to a come-from-behind victory against Syracuse when Tyler Lawrence was injured. And now he's going to make the jump again to see if he can get a program of his own to run. A guy who's probably the most, intriguing. You like that word, intriguing, Coach? Is Joey Gatewood, who was Bennett, Auburn, and a little bit of a package guy, but never the guy. And see if he can run his own ship as well. And let us know in the chat which one of these guys you think is the guy. We're going to talk. Coach and I are going to both talk about which guy we think is the most intriguing, best prospect to do well, and all of that. A couple more of them to go here. Guy named Peyton Ramsey from Indiana University. Coach Larson will probably know a little something about that. Coach spent a lot of time in the state of Indiana and coached in the Big Ten at Indiana University as well. Interesting to see what Peyton Ramsey's able to do as he moves over to Northwestern. And then a guy who is much maligned in one of the toughest places in the world to play quarterback, and that's Felipe Franks, Coach. Not an enviable position to ride it and up and down in a place like Gainesville, and had some definite highlights during his career, but is also going to move on and try his hand with immediate eligibility as well. So, all that said, Coach, so we ran it down for you, all of them. Coach, I'm going to put you on the clock, and I'm going to give you 30 to 60 seconds. So
Okay.
we want to know a little bit about the guy that you picked, Coach, and I'm going to get the graphic up on the screen. Who's your choice, Coach? Let us know, and let us know why you think he's the most intriguing and best chance to maybe do well.
Yeah, I think you said all those quarterbacks are pretty intriguing. The one that really jumped off the page for me is Chase Bryce. Obviously, he spent some time backing up Trevor Lawrence. Didn't really get his shot. I think everybody understands why.
No doubt.
He's done a good job for them when he's in. Now, granted, it might have been some majority of it being mop up time or whatever you want to call it. But did a really nice job for them. But reading all this stuff about Chase Bryce is he has 2 years of eligibility left.
No.
So, I don't necessarily want to compare him to Joe Burrow, but he had kind of the same deal, the 2-year deal. Got his feet wet a little bit, and then makes that huge jump and has a terrific final year and wins a national championship. So, I just think that 2-year deal really intrigues me about Chase Bryce. And then, obviously, Coach Cutcliffe, who, you get to know some of these coaches on the recruiting trail, and when they come to visit you, and, it goes back a lot further than that, coaching the Mannings and things like that. So I think he's walking into a really stable program, a really stable offense. And I think he's going to do a good job.
No doubt. I agree with you. Hey, make sure, folks, as you're in the chat, go ahead and let us know who you think. We gave you 7 or 8 quarterback options here. Let me count them up real quick. We gave you 8 quarterback options of guys in the FBS level who are transferring. What guy has the chance to make the biggest splash? Doesn't necessarily mean that it's the guy that you think, hey, is going to be a Heisman Trophy winner or be the best quarterback in the land, but maybe has the best fit, has the best situation. Let us know what you think. So, Coach, you had your speak, you had your piece. I think you went over 60 seconds, Coach. You got to tighten that up for next week for me, okay? Actually, I'm joking because I just saw in the chat someone said, I hope they let Coach O'Flaherty speak more this week. He's dropping
knowledge. I see somebody told me I'm speaking facts, so that works for me.
I love that, Coach. You are speaking facts, Coach. All right, so who's my pick? Coach Johnston's pick is from Indiana University, the sleeper, Peyton Ramsey. Has had a really good career for the Hoosiers. And then, so if I had to pick, sometimes you talk about guys being just straight pocket passes. Other guys are guys who like to tuck it and run. And some guys are true combo guys. I think he leans a little bit to this side of the needle as a true pocket passer in my mind, but he also has the ability to be athletic and make plays and all that sort of thing. But I do think there's a couple things going into this. My reasoning behind why I think he'll do well. He's headed to Northwestern, and it's interesting, Coach. You talk about people that we meet on the recruiting trail. So Mike Bajakian is going to be out there at Northwestern. He came from Boston College. What's significant about that? So he was at BC with a head coach in Steve Adazio, who is definitely, I think, a run-first guy, play action, want to pound the rock, and with the back they had graduating just now that you saw go in the second round of the draft, who wouldn't pound the rock with him? But I think that fits well in terms of what Coach Bajakian came out of, being able to run the ball well and then get open looks in the play action game and just see what kind of plays Peyton Ramsey can make. So I do like the fit there a lot. Northwestern also has nowhere to go but up as an offensive unit from last year. They had the struggles in 2019. So I think he has a chance to make a significant impact. So that's where my head is at. Let us know in the chat who you think is the guy of all the quarterbacks that we presented. Let us know who you think is the one. Who's the guy that probably has the best chance to really do some good things. And, Coach, that wasn't an easy vote by any means because there were a lot of guys that I think potentially could have been I think there were a lot of guys who probably could have been the guy that you pick in that list. And I see some people in the chat here. Lucas is telling us that we have the guy King, Derek King from University of Houston.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that scared me off a little bit about him was it didn't feel like such a weird kind of like, it just felt like a very odd, the way it all unfolded. You know what I mean? It was just like, yeah, he's playing, but now he's not playing, and he's going to redshirt, and he's not going to transfer, and it just felt odd. It's like, so you're not going to play this year, but you're going to stay at Houston. I don't think anybody really believed that in their heart, Coach, that that's how it was going to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The guy, what are you about to say, Coach? Sorry.
No, I got a couple votes here for KJ Costello, which is
Yeah.
it came down for me to Bryce and Costello. That's interesting. Costello coming from Stanford and then making the jump over to a completely different offense. Should be really interesting.
I agree, and it seems to me like I think it's probably way too early to say right now because I really haven't taken a dive into it to evaluate. But I think Costello's the type of guy when you look at him frame wise, he's got like I think what scouts and GMs and they like the way he's built, the way he's put together as a potential pro. I think he's somebody who probably garner some attention for sure. So keep on let these come in. Jamie Newman's a guy who we really didn't mention. When I tell you, I had like 5 potential first place guys that came when I considered this list, and for me it was just difficult to make a pick. But Jamie Newman was right there. Jamie Newman has the best, I think, ready-made situation to step into at Georgia. They're a team that runs the ball well. They're a team that plays great defense. They're a stable operation, a stable program, and he's had success coming from Wake Forest. So going into Georgia, probably the opportunity to just continue that. So I may be turn out to be wrong for going out on a limb with Ramsey, Coach. That's for sure. But that's why we do this, and that's why it's so much fun, Coach. Coach, you ready to jump in and talk a little bit about the screen game?
Yeah, let's go.
So this was my pet project in our pre-production meeting over the weekend, Coach. I said, you said, well, what are we going to focus on the mechanics side or the drill side or whatever?
Yep.
Just quick little segment where we go over things. How often do you find as quarterback coaches? How often do we have have the opportunity to really go deep dive detail in the screen game? Do you find, Coach, as a quarterback's coach, that you don't always have the opportunity? You spend so much time scheming it up, but when it really comes to the quarterback, how much time do you find yourself having?
That's what I was going to say. I think we spend so much time, focusing on the grand scheme of things, and you're just hoping sometimes the quarterback puts the ball in the right place, and you're not able to, like you're saying, focus on some of the smaller things.
Yeah.
That could be one of the main reasons why the screen goes off.
Yep. No doubt. That's absolutely true. Real quick before we move on from this, someone dropped in the chat. Phil, God forgive me if I'm not saying, I always jack this kid's name up, but Phil Jerkovic, who was at Notre Dame and backed up Ian Book. The reason he didn't make the list, guys, because I think there's still some question about if he's eligible for 2020. I don't know if he's eligible for this year. So we just decided not to chase rainbows here and just try to figure out whether somebody's going to be eligible or not. So definitely in the mix for the conversation if he is in fact able to play in 2020. Coach, let's jump into it. I'm going to put up on the we're going to demonstrate, and it's going to be, we're just going to mute the effect as we go through it, but I just want to get a look at so, Coach, I'm testing out the new picture-in-picture right here, and I'm loving it right now, Coach. I'm picture-in-picture, and it's good stuff. So they can see me, Coach. They can't see you right now. We may have to expand that. We're going to talk to Renee, our producer, about next week, maybe getting you on the picture-in-picture. When it comes to the screen game, Coach, what is it that if there's one thing, we talk a lot of things, selling vertical pass, the eyes, the pause, the elevation. What is it for you that you think is the most important thing? Yep. Yep. Yep.
quarterback's going to take a 3-step drop, and now your quarterback's taking a 7-step drop from the gun. Really doesn't make doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So they're able to retrace their steps, and either we're throwing the ball away, or something even worse, we're throwing it to the wrong team.
Yeah, so Coach, just reiterate for some of our users, I think I had fat fingers on the boards here. Just reiterate, just very quickly, your top point. They heard your second half of comments. Just reiterate your top point on the screen.
Okay, so
just
would be drifting at the top of your drop.
No doubt.
We want to invite the defense. We want to invite the defense up the field, and obviously, you see Coach in the film here elevating on that last step to get over those guys that you just invited into your space there.
No doubt. I agree with you on that. And I'm going to jump just to mine real quick and just say that for me, I think probably the Okay, guys. All right. So, Coach O'Flaherty, you got me back. Technology, Coach. Technology. All right. So we're in good.
We should be live again. Is this?
Hey, Coach O'Flaherty, with me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Good. All right. So we're a little jinxed there on the on that. So we're going to jump to. We're going to get ourselves some onto our interview here. Now, this guy that we're going to talk to next is someone that is really well known with Complete QB family, obviously, because he's a guy who has been with us now for, this has to be, Coach, this got to be going on 13 or 14 years that he's been around with us, been on the road.
Yeah.
We first encountered this guy, Coach O'Flaherty, if you have a good memory, when he was a college guy himself. He was a college quarterback himself. And, Coach, I just saw in the chat, I love it. I love the interaction in the chat. Said beard or no beard with Coach O'Flaherty. That's the question people want to know about. We're going to ask Coach Larson about that. Maybe we'll do a little fan voting at the end, Coach, about that. But the guy we're going to talk to now, Coach, 13, 14 years strong in his affiliation with us, and everywhere that he has gone, GA'ing at Indiana University in the Big Ten, the places that he's been, like Wabash. He obviously had a real good run as offensive coordinator down at Stevenson in Maryland, and made the jump to the Ivies just a little over a year ago. And joined the staff at Columbia University, where they have a really good group over there. I know he's working with coordinator Mark Favish, is doing an unbelievable job there as well. So we're excited to have this guy with us, man. And we're going to welcome him into the show right now. Coach Larson, how you doing? We're waiting on Coach Larson. There we go. I was like, it said Renee Johnston. You don't look like Renee Johnston, Coach. Thank God you don't look like Renee Johnston. So
better watch it now.
Absolutely, Coach. So just want to welcome you in, man. It's nice to see you again. I know it's not the greatest of circumstances right now, but we're excited to have you here. And I know there's a lot of people that tuned in tonight because they wanted to see what was going on with you and what kind of perspective you were bringing to things here. So I just want to jump into it. And Coach O'Flaherty, you want to kick us off with the questions here, man?
Yeah. So first question, Coach Larson. Coach talked a little bit about your background and stops that you've made, and obviously one being in the Big Ten. Obviously at that level, talent overrides a lot of things. But is there any weight? Is there any weight to the intangibles of specific players, and specifically the quarterback position?
Yeah, I mean, you have to understand at that level, you're probably only going to put on scholarship 4 guys, and they depend on, maybe 2 or 3 walk-ons. So, those are highly, highly valuable spots. And, you're looking at, are they coming from winning programs? I think that's one thing, have they won at a high level? I think you're looking at your personality traits, and particularly like, can this guy be a leader? Because whether you like it or not, that guy's going to be the face of the program. So,
Sure.
you better make sure he's the type of kid that has the maturity level that when he's in front of a press conference, he knows how to answer things the right way, conduct himself, be a good teammate, be a leader. And then, one of the big things that we were really looking for, and Indiana's done a really great job in the last couple of years, taking off as a program. And I think they've done it in a lot of great ways because of the quarterback play is, you're looking for guys who played at high competition levels in high school too. Because when you think about from high school to the Big Ten, you're going against guys at Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State. And, and I just named those three, but I mean, there's talent all over that league. And if a guy hasn't played against high competition level in high school, that's going to be a really hard growth curve for them. So you're looking at a lot of different things, and a little bit of it's cliche. You're looking at every quarterback. But I think it's important to know that those guys are only scholarship and maybe 4 guys a year. Maybe 5 with a red shirt. So you're really trying to be calculated with what you're doing in that position.
Yeah, so that's a great point. And Coach, just you touched on having that guy who's able to perform at a high level. We're going to have a segment here, I think, quarterback cliche terms. And if I hit a word elite one more time, I'm going to lose my mind, Coach. You know that? But I will tell you, so having guys that can perform at a level where they're really they're comfortable being the guy and being in charge and I always like to tell quarterbacks, you're the closest to a coach on the team that we got, so you got to make sure that you're about it all the time. You can't be a sometimey type of dude when you're playing this position. So I think obviously having the right person or persons in that group really crucial. So kind of tied to that, I want to know, we're in this quarantine just mess that we're in right now. 2 months of no contact. For you guys, you've lost spring ball. For us, we've lost spring workouts and weight room, all that when I talk about the high school level. What do you think and how good your guys at and how mentally sharp and how good they are at leadership impacts this? Do you think quarantine is going to have a major effect on introduction of new wrinkles in offenses? Do you expect to see stuff that's really vanilla and more simplicity and less innovation coming up right now when we finally do get back to football? What do you think the impact is going to be coming out of this?
I think that there's so much good information out there right now. It's unbelievable. One of the coolest things that's happening in coaching right now is the sharing of information that coaches are willing to do. And
Coach, are you talking about the Complete QB Videos channel on YouTube? Is that what you're talking about right now?
But it's at all levels.
It's sweeping the nation.
And guys are sharing stuff, and there's so much good stuff out there, but that doesn't necessarily mean it all fits.
I'm not connected and I'm
it doesn't mean it all necessarily fits you. You know, so you got to make sure you're smart about how much of this new stuff you're taking in. We're making tweaks to our offense, things that we had planned to do in spring ball. I think it's important still to teach our guys those things, to have our meetings, during the week, go through those things, because you still want them to have their release from the academic side of things. You still want them to feel like football is still an integral part of their life. So we're still making those changes, but we're not putting in a whole new offense. I'll tell you that. But we're making sure, we're working some new things, some new wrinkles, some new ideas. And it's not just scheme, it's technique, it's you're looking at a lot of different things, how to improve your room.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's I think that's really, really important, especially with the younger quarterbacks. Talking about technique more than scheme has been really more helpful for us. Being able to talk some base, foundation, football has helped our guys tremendously. So, Coach, I definitely agree with what we were saying there. Go ahead.
One more thing I'd say with it is we know how our kids learn now. Our kids now learn on a computer, on a TV. One thing that we've done a little bit, and even our college guys love it, is we're watching Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
We're watching film on him. And they've got great receivers. They got great O-line. LSU was unbelievable. and he's unbelievable. But when you start to really watch him, how he moves in the pocket, what are the things that he's doing? You know, you take a concept, you say, hey, here's the concept, and then here's how he's kind of attacking it. You know, I think that that's been huge for our guys, and we might not have had that time to do that usually, but now we can kind of step back and, you know, learn from others. And, you know, I'm always finding clips online. You guys know how Twitter is. You can find everything now. It's so easy to share, you know, just little things here and there, you know, to our guys, you know, drills we see. You know, I mean, Chris joked about it, complete QB, but like, though you guys put those things up and like that's in my quarterback group chat. You know, it's because it's free. It's easy.
Absolutely. Hey, Coach, I'm going to interrupt you there for a second. If anybody has, you talked about finding stuff online. Anybody has the 1984 Norwood Little League Town Championship. We beat the Royals 4-3. I just found my VHS tape the other day, and it's dead. And I need it. Anybody out there, Norwood, Mass, please get it to me. I will pay top dollar for sure.
All right, Coach, just want to shift gears on you just a little bit. All right, we've talked a little bit about, you know, from the player's perspective. Obviously, you've coached at all different levels of college football. If you were to mentor or offer a piece of advice to a younger coach that's trying to maybe, you know, work his way into college football, or is I'm sure you're well aware of the struggles of GAing, and what would that advice be to one of the younger coaches?
Yeah, you know, the first, and it's really, really simple, is don't chase money. Don't chase money. Money and titles will come when you earn them through working hard. And I know that sounds funny, but like, I think people have a misconception of how much money, you know, college coaches make, because we all hear about Nick Saban's contract. We all hear about, you know, the big. And if you're focused on that and you're focused on chasing jobs, you're not going to move. You know, I've met people like that, and maybe it works for some people, but I've seen people who take the approach of working hard, and it works for them. Now, the one thing I would say, and this was just my personal experience, you know, I came straight out of college and was lucky enough to go to Indiana, and I did it completely unpaid. You know, and I was poor at the time as a poor college student, and I was okay staying poor. And I would do every job that no one else wanted to do in that office for the first 2 or 3 months during the summer. You know, I'd take recruiting letters home with me at night and fold them, and, you know, I'd be in early in the morning and make the coffee and just all the things that no one else wanted to do. But the more coaches see you around, they start giving you things, they start trusting you with things, and then you kind of gain. And, you know, and I was fortunate enough, after a year of literally working for free, you know, I got promoted to a full-time position as a quality control. And so
live, we assured the audience I was watching that this just turned into the Larson and O'Flaherty show, and we're going to keep it rolling. So it really doesn't matter as long as we're alive. Well, we were going to jump out. This question, I think, is more up Coach Johnston's alley to ask than myself.
Oh boy!
but if Coach Johnston's ready, we'll let him roll with this question.
I have to. I got to get out of the house just to get my legs stretched. So I run a decent amount. I actually run 6 days a week. So I take Mondays. I take Mondays off. I give myself Monday. I run 6 days a week, and, you know, unfortunately I don't get to lift or anything like that. But it's just good to clear my head. I do it in the morning before our staff meeting. It's a good way to wake up and get going.
Nice. And then what? You had two stops after that prior to Columbia?
3. Yeah, I spent 2 years in Indiana, 1 year at Wabash as the receivers coach. And
then what? You had two stops after that prior to Columbia?
3. Yeah, I spent 2 years in Indiana, 1 year at Wabash as the receivers coach. There we go. Sorry, I don't know why it was like pausing.
Feedback.
So anyways, I spent 1 year at Wabash, receivers coach. Left there, went to Rhodes College in Memphis, Tennessee. Spent 2 years as a pass game coordinator, receivers coach, offensive coordinator my last year there. Then I went to Stevenson, was the OC there for 4 years. And then I've been here at Columbia for a year. So I've been here for just over a calendar year, about 14, 15 months now. So
Nice.
It's good stuff.
And I think if Coach Johnston, are we
Coach,
live?
you're in living color. You're in living color streaming, Coach. You should be
All
good.
right, that's big time. So, Coach Larson, we're actually, it's like we already rehearsed the next 2 questions.
We're good, man.
But all right, so obviously we've been talking a lot about quarterback play, and then obviously evaluating quarterbacks at all different levels, and seeing guys really have a lot of success. What are 1 or 2 of the common traits that you see in successful quarterbacks?
So from a physical standpoint, there's 2 things: their feet and their accuracy. And the feet, we see it more and more these days. Guys got personal training quarterback coaches, and they're real clean. But for a guy that's more raw, we might look a little bit more just how does he move in the pocket?
Mm-hmm.
How's he kind of keeping his base, everything like that. And then from an accuracy standpoint, a lot of people talk about accuracy as, always put it on the right shoulder or, fitting a tight window. To me, those things are important. They do show accuracy, but most importantly is, are you putting it only where the receiver can get it, especially on the defense? We all know quarterbacks are going to make their highlight film and they're going to put a ton of deep balls on there. You just want to see, are they putting it only where their guy can get it? And I think that's a really important thing, because a lot of what football is taking advantage of one-on-ones and, letting your guy be successful. So putting in that right place where, even though it might be an incompletion, and I know we don't put incompletions on highlight films, but just knowing, hey, if that ball is incomplete, it's just incomplete. There's no way the defender can make a play on it. So I think that those are the 2 physical things that I really look at. And then, as we vet a recruit and get, deeper in the process, we start getting in touch with their coaches, people that are close to them, about their intangibles, their work ethic, their leadership, their competitiveness, all those type of things that I think are really important as well. But when we just start with the base of the film, that's kind of where, I like to start and then kind of work forward.
Yeah, good points. Coach Johnston, do you want me to just keep rolling here if you don't mind?
Oh, man. You're in a rhythm. You're like you 2 are like a band in at one of those small spots in the village where you just walk in and these guys are making music and they're just doing. Just keep going, man. Keep going.
All right. So talking about the positive, the positive side of things and quarterbacks being successful. What about those quarterbacks that didn't reach their potential? What's the common thread characteristic there?
I think the biggest thing is the work ethic that you put into, particularly into the mental side of it. Football kind of, especially at the quarterback position, it kind of builds. So you're in the youth league, a middle school league, that's mostly, hey, I just know my plays. I know how to execute the offense and I'm good. You go to high school and you got to start to know the defenses a little bit, but you still got to know your stuff. When you get to the college game, you got to know all the details. You got to know the protections. You got to know the run responsibilities, especially with all the RPOs and, 5-man protections and checks and all that. So to me, it's how much work you're willing to put into the mental side of it, because it's just like anything. It's like algebra. No one just knows algebra. They don't, you got to be taught it. And so putting that time in, I think, is huge. And the great quarterbacks that I've been lucky to be around, like them putting in the extra work, watching film, being involved in game planning, all those type of things, like those are things that they wanted to do. It wasn't like they were looking at it as a bad thing. They wanted to be involved with it because that's just what their work ethic took them towards. And they took those big mental, leaps. And I think that's the biggest thing as you keep going up level and level and level in football.
Yeah. Sure. It's interesting you talk about the things that are the positive characteristics for guys that are doing the right things. I think common traits run through some of the duds, some of the dudes who don't live up to their potential, right, Coach? Like those guys that have tremendous physical gifts. If you've been coaching football for a little bit, you ran into a quarterback who, when you saw him like at 7-on-7 or some even warm-ups,
Yep.
he would look like a dude, but just didn't have it for a variety of reasons. What do you think what are some of the common traits that run through those guys who don't reach their potential? What are the things that you look for as red flags? I think that's a good answer for coaches, but I especially think that's good for the guys who are, tuning in live tonight, and then probably, a whole lot more people that'll watch this video afterward. What are the characteristics of the guys who are not getting it done, not living up to their potential that you see as common traits?
Yeah, I mean, first it comes into the mental, but then also from a physical standpoint, to me, it's guys that aren't willing to put the effort into their mechanics and everything, even just how you hand a ball off, or play action. Where's your offhand? Just the little things. Drop depth is huge. You see it, guys that just are not getting depth out of their drops. They're not taking advantage. So I think from a physical standpoint, those are some things. We all have seen Phillip Rivers throw. We all know the way Phillip Rivers throws is very unconventional.
No.
It works for Phillip Rivers. He's made it work.
Yep.
But, with all the coaching that's out there now and all the accessibility information, I mean, that's one of those red flags. I mean, it's a red flag for me if a guy's got a really low, launch point, and I'm not sure if he can make all the throws we need him to make in the college game. You better be 6'5", 225 like Phillip Rivers.
No,
to do that.
That's the truth. Have a lot of body mass behind the ball that you're throwing.
Yeah.
Coach, when was the last time you had a haircut?
Too long.
Been a while? All right. Coach O'Flaherty just let everybody know in the chat that he said, quote, "I trimmed the beard today just to let the viewers know." So I was going to say, Coach, it did look a little different. There were Wolverine references made.
It was different on Monday.
Yeah. Check.
Monday night we had a big time college coach on, so I figured I might as well
absolutely,
I might as well trim up.
It was so just so you know, I know you can't believe it, and probably the viewers are shocked as well, but I actually have been doing like self haircuts now for the last couple months, and I like the way it's coming together. I think you'd probably agree. It looks really sharp there. Coach, over to you, Coach O'Flaherty. Keep hitting him. This guy's got good answers. Keep hitting him with questions.
Yeah, definitely. All right, where are we here? All right, so Coach Johnston, this is actually your question, but I'll roll with it.
Go for it.
So before we get into actually, Coach, I'm going to flip the script a little bit here because
Do it.
What in terms of everybody's on Zoom, right? We're all
Yep.
you said all the guys are sharing their resources and things like that. So before we jump into the recruiting side of things, are you experiencing any Zoom burnout?
I think a little bit on the personal level. I think the first few weeks I kind of went too hard in the paint. Too many Zooms. I was on one. A good friend of mine put it together, and it was 6 hours long. It was 13 speakers. Each guy presented for a half an hour, and it was awesome. I mean, I got so much information, but I was on from 6 to midnight. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. I think being careful about those type of things. One of the biggest things as it pertains to me personally, but also our kids, is I try not to keep them on there for more than 45 minutes to an hour. Because I think it just, I'm the same way with my position meetings too. I just think it burns them out.
No.
One of the things that we're doing with our quarterbacks here that's been a ton of fun, and obviously, Chris knows about this. He was our first guest. Is I've been bringing in guests into our quarterback meetings. The last, I guess, about 7 weeks now. And what's been really fun about it is, we've had personal quarterback training coaches. We've had guys that are physical therapists. We've had guys that are involved in football in different ranks. And it's been neat to get a lot of different perspectives for our guys, especially on leadership and some of those intangibles we keep talking about. And it's just giving them some fresh new ideas, and it's giving me ideas. I'm sitting down and writing down notes too. So
No.
I think that's one thing is, hearing other voices. And I'm really big on meeting with my guys one-on-one.
Yeah.
We only meet as a group twice a week for about 45 minutes each time.
Yeah.
And the NCAA gives us 6 hours a week, which is a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, do you find the morale piece of it, Coach? I we talked just off camera before we started that, just mentioning that, I hear it, and I know Coach O'Flaherty must hear it, that people in your program asking, like, Coach, what's going to happen to the season? Is there any chance we won't have a season? Coach, by the way, I don't know if you can see it, Coach Larson. We got the big Columbia upset over Harvard at Columbia in 2019 is rolling. B-roll as we talk to you here.
Nice.
So I thought you'd like to know that big overtime win over the Crimson. What do you find, like, how does morale play into all this, and how are you dealing with it? And the Ivy League, for you guys, Ivy League was the first one to say, hey, we're going to take a step back. Spring ball's dead. Spring sports are dead. And I remember at the time, I got to admit, at the time I was like, wow, they did that in a hurry. That was a rush. And now in retrospect, the league made the right call, as the rest of the world followed suit. Where just being in I guess a forward-thinking league, and just the institutions there saying, hey, we got to keep everybody's safety as the first and foremost priority. When you start to get asked stuff like that, like, Coach, what's going to happen? When's it going to happen? What are you doing to keep the morale up, trying to just get guys to maintain that focus?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I say all the time in my room, and guys that have been coached by me 10 years ago have heard this and still say now, is just control our controllables. Control what we can control. We can't control anything else. The Ivy League made that choice first, and obviously, other leagues and everything happened after. And a lot of that was, in the name of player safety,
no doubt,
health, and I think that, that's really important, that we're keeping that in mind, that, athletics are really important. Don't get me wrong. I make my living coaching.
Yeah.
But our players' safety, is paramount. If you guys haven't seen, there's a lot of, information out there, but Herm Edwards had an unbelievable interview on ESPN yesterday talking about, player safety. And, our offensive coordinator, Mark Fabish, sent it to our whole offensive staff group. And it was just really cool to listen to him and how that perspective. So, I start there with it, but in my quarterback meetings, like, we're preparing like nothing has changed, because that's all we can do. And if things change, then we'll do what we have to do. But, we're moving full head of speed. We don't, obviously they have concerns. I have concerns. We all do.
Yeah.
But we're not going to make that be a distraction either.
No doubt.
We can still be better football coaches. We can still be better football players no matter what. And if we play all 10 games this year, awesome. If we don't play all 10 games and we play a shortened season, whatever. No, football's better than no football. And if we play in the spring, which I know sounds crazy, who cares? We get to play.
Yeah, to play, no doubt.
Preparing for that next season whenever it starts. So to me, that's just what we keep focusing on. We just keep focusing on, we're going to play. And if we let our guard down, someone else is going to get better and we're not going to. And that's the one thing I say is this has leveled the playing field for everyone.
No doubt.
Whoever's willing to work the hardest through all of this, individually and as teams, as groups, is going to see the benefit of it once we play.
Yeah, that's the truth. Coach O'Flaherty is going to pivot in 1 second toward the recruiting piece of it, because the Ivies are so unique when it comes to that, playing at a high level, yet having some of the, I don't know if the restrictions is the right term, but just rules that govern the way that you guys operate and the way you work. But just before you do that, real quick, can you, and we'll keep this one brief, because I know a lot of folks just want to hear it. It's just an interesting phenomenon what happens in the Ivy. What is, do your quarterbacks have any specific responsibilities right now related to, like, breakdown or anything you have them evaluating or anything like that, anything you want to see them get better at from an analysis point?
Yeah, I'm not a big assignment guy. I'm not.
Yep.
I don't have anything in particular. I'm always guiding them, through our meetings, what they can go watch on their own when we're not together, when we're not meeting together. But like I kind of said earlier, like, I'm huge on one-on-one meetings with our guys, because I just think that they open up more.
Sure.
And they ask more questions, and it just seems like naturally things happen. So,
Yeah.
The great thing about coaching here, and I'll talk about it later with some of the recruiting stuff, is like we're so lucky. We have unbelievably motivated kids, academically, athletically, socially, everything that they do, they want to be great. And so I don't have to twist their arm to watch film.
Nope.
I don't. So
No
I
doubt.
don't treat them like children because I know they're going to do it because
No
they know it's important.
Yep.
But I do try to guide them on things like, hey, we're talking about this play today. Hey, go watch it versus this team, or
Yep.
go look at it from this vantage point. Maybe if it's an NFL film thing, and go look and see how they're doing it. So I try to give them some direction, but I still want them to be independent learners too, because everyone learns differently.
For sure. That's definitely the truth.
So, Coach, if you don't mind, we're going to, like Coach Johnston said, kind of pivot towards the recruiting side of things.
Yeah.
And for the last 2 or 3 weeks, Coach Johnston and I have been talking about, the challenges, for a lot of our kids, and then the challenges on our end of, losing the evaluation period and, being able to get FaceTime with coaches and be able to talk about our kids and things like that. But from your end, whether it be personal or just what you're hearing from other coaches, what are some of the challenges from the college coaches' perspective?
Yeah. So, I mean, like you just said, the lack of the evaluation period is important, 2 ways. Evaluation period is important because, you see guys, move around and everything, but you want to talk to their coaches too.
Sure.
And you want to get their opinions. And so we're having to do a really great job of communicating with high school coaches and getting those answers on those intangible things, their work ethic, their family, the support that they have, how they are in the weight room, how are they academically, how, all these things that we're looking at. So I think that that's a huge thing. Everyone just assumes evaluation. It's all about, watching the kid, but there's so much more that goes into it, with stepping into someone's high school and getting a feel for who they are in that high school. Are they a leader in that high school? The other huge thing that's really tough is because of the way things canceled in the spring. Obviously, we're not having camps this summer, and a lot of people aren't having camps this summer. So the lack of verified data is really, really a struggle. I tell kids all the time, don't lie on your huddle profile that you run a 4.45 and that you're 6'2", but you're actually only 5'11". Like, and that's tough. And so like getting verified data on kids, because all those Nike, the openings and the rivals, a lot of those got canceled too, is it's really hard to find verified data on kids that we could have gotten in camp ourselves. So I think that's a huge thing too, is getting, verified data on kids to really validate what you see on the film. And then, the personal side of it with evaluation periods of being able to get a lot of information on kids, both physical, but also, like I said, those intangible things, I think is a huge deal. So, we just have to communicate. It all comes back down to communication with our current players, communication with recruits, communication with coaches.
Sure.
We have to do a great job of getting information and gathering it as best we can.
Yeah, it's a good point, Coach. And I think, the battle for us as high school coaches, we see a lot of other programs, just throwing out offers, talking to FBS schools, just everywhere you look. And, we're all on Twitter and you see all the offers just pouring in. And, I think it's great for the student athlete. It worries me about, is that offer committable? Can you commit? And then, the thing that we see, where I coach, we're at a pretty high academic institution. We have a number of guys that express interest into the Ivy League, but just in general, can you explain the academic index and how that plays into recruiting on your end?
Yeah. So the easiest way to describe it to anyone is understand that it's the mix of 2 things. It's the mix of your standardized test score, so your ACT, SAT, and your GPA. And particularly in the Ivy, understanding that there's a big difference between your weighted GPA and your unweighted GPA. And that's a real thing. And so making sure, I mean, obviously there's some schools like, Ryan, Chris, like you guys are at private schools that probably only list one GPA on the transcript. But like a lot of public schools will still list both. But it's the mix of the two. You put those two together. We have a calculation, basically a formula that comes up with a number. And that number is what we call the academic index, the AI. And then depending on what that number is what band it puts you in. And so we have, what we call band 1, which is our lowest academic guys that we can get in, and 4 is the highest academic guys we can get in. And it varies. Every year it's not the same. We might have more spots in band 1 year versus another year. It's dependent upon, numbers given to us by the whole Ivy League together, but also by our admission department. So it's a conjoined effort. It's not just, one thing coming from there. So that's kind of the thing. It's always fluctuating. And the one thing I tell kids all the time is that just because it's this way at Columbia, like we only have this amount of spots at band 1 or band 2, doesn't mean it's the same at Harvard. Doesn't mean it's the same at Princeton. Like their bands can be allocated differently based on their current roster.
For sure.
And everyone looks at it differently. Everyone values their bands in different ways. There's some places that will only take certain positions in certain bands. Or they'll only reserve their lower bands for certain positions. So, and that's just dependent upon the philosophy of your head coach. But that's kind of how it works. You mix those two together. One of the most important things I tell kids all the time is it's really hard to drastically change your GPA fast. It is. But test scores you can change pretty quickly. You can go out and have a good math day on the SAT and go up 30 or 40 points. And that can be the difference between being in band 1 or maybe even band 3.
No doubt.
Depending on your GPA. So I tell kids all the time, like, take the test early. If we learn anything from what's happening right now, it is go take the test early, because there are so many juniors that are going to be seniors next year that haven't got to take it at one time. And there's so many kids that did take it as a sophomore or their fall of their junior year that are thankful that they have it, because it's not going to hurt anyone to have your test score. It's not going to limit you by having it. It's only going to help you by having it.
That's the truth.
So, I tell kids all the time, man, the earlier the better. Just
no doubt. No doubt, for sure.
Kill a Saturday morning. It's worth it.
No doubt. That's the truth. Coach, what's 2 months of quarantine? What's been your go-to meal in quarantine?
So grilling. And the reason is grilling makes me think of summer. Grilling makes me happy.
Happy thoughts right there.
It's a time away from the computer. It's a time away from the cell phone. It's time away from, work. So that's been big. We've been fortunate, in New York that we've had some pretty nice days the last month.
For sure. Yeah.
I've been trying to get out and grill a couple days a week. My wife and I have been getting recipes from different people and trading them and stuff like that. So we've been doing some
I like that.
meals. We did a buffalo chicken lasagna, which was pretty phenomenal.
There you go.
So we've gotten some new ideas from friends.
Coach Larson, since you're in the New York metropolitan area, this is important. Whatever you're about to say, this is more important. Okay, I'm gonna let you know about this. That we are starting a brand new segment next week that we're gonna focus on. It's starting in quarantine, but I suspect it'll stay with Complete QB Live for the duration. That we're gonna advise of fine eating spots in the area, and we're gonna I think have a focus on pizza. I'm a big pizza guy, as you know.
Absolutely.
My wife has done an unbelievable job here during quarantine, especially. She's always been a great cook. She did nearly burn my face off last night. She's of Jamaican heritage, and she threw together some West Indian cuisine last night with some curried fish, and I nearly had to dial 911. It was so hot, but it was very, very good, man. I did enjoy.
Right up your alley.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So is there anything that you think that last thing just on this recruiting piece before we pivot, we're going to do some fun trivia, Coach, and you're going to be here for it, Coach. You're going to be in on the ground floor at Complete QB Trivia, okay? I want to know, is there anything, because and just everybody understanding that we can't have Coach Larson with a feed directly to questions that come in. Normally, we like to have questions, just pepper everybody with questions. The guest next week, you'll be able to do it because he's a college coach. We want to make sure that we, stay clear of any NCAA rules and all that sort of thing. So we can't have that direct interaction with parents and players with Coach Larson. That's why we stick to the interview, and hopefully that Coach O'Flaherty and I do a good enough job asking the right questions. But what do you think? We've talked about the player and, I guess by default, the parent. A short answer on this one. What can high school coaches do right now to help their potential recruits?
Share verified information.
No doubt.
Find a way to measure your guys, weigh your guys.
Yep.
I usually trust high school coaches pretty well with, verticals.
No doubt. Yep.
Broad jumps and stuff like that. So I think that's huge. Yep. All the typical things that a lot of high school coaches already do, with profile sheets.
Yeah.
I think are really important. And then transcripts.
Sure.
Transcripts, especially for our level, are huge. And a lot of Division III schools too. I coached Division III football for a long time, and I think transcripts are huge to make sure of admissibility. And
no doubt,
coaches usually have access. Now you might have to have a student athlete sign off on that access
to
share it. But that's huge. Every time I talk to a kid, a recruit, and he tells me he doesn't have his transcript, I'm like, get it from your coach and save it on your phone.
No doubt. No doubt.
I'm not going to be the last coach is going to ask for it.
It's called technology, people. It's called technology. Let's use it, right? All right. Yep. Coach Larson, had a blast talking with you so far, man. And Coach, I feel like we wouldn't do this with every guest, but we're gonna ask you to stick around during the trivia question. All right? How do you feel about that, Coach? You pretty excited?
Good. Let's do it.
Would it be fair to describe you as giddy right now, Coach? All right. So we're gonna jump into the trivia question for tonight, and I'm gonna tell a quick story to everybody out there. Coach O'Flaherty was derelict in his duties. He was in charge of the trivia question. Coach O'Flaherty nailed everything. Like pre-production meetings, he was ready to go. We did a sound check Monday night. Turns out we probably should have done an internet check as well because we dropped off for a while there and struggled a little bit. But Coach O'Flaherty did a really terrible job on the trivia side. I don't want to air too much dirty laundry here, Coach Larson, but I'm going to let you know that, okay? But luckily, this guy is always thinking, so he's got a trivia question ready to go for us, okay? So the question, people, first one to answer this correct in the chat is going to get a dynamite, just a really nice Complete QB prize. So the question is for us today, Complete QB trivia. Prior to Joe Burrow at LSU in 2019, who was the last transfer QB? We talked about transfer QBs at the top, coaches. Who was the last transfer QB to win the Heisman Trophy? This is really, really, I would describe this as easy. And I think that you should be able to get it. All right. So we're going to see if anybody has in the chat, if anybody can answer that for us and let us know as we wrap up with Coach Larson. Coach Larson, it's a lot of fun being able to talk with a guy that you've known for a long time. And I'm going to throw up just real quick. There's a shot of a couple young, fresh-faced football coaches 8 years ago on the field at Montini Catholic in Illinois, guys, okay? These guys having some fun, and then there was one other guy in there I think they had, and a really handsome football coach. Look at him, he joined in right there. The three of us, they were working together on the field 8 years ago, and I know what you're thinking. The guy with the ball doesn't age, does he, Coach?
No.
It's unbelievable. It really is unbelievable. So we had a couple people answer. We had somebody right. So we've got a guy, Lucas, with the correct answer. The correct answer to the trivia question is, just for giggles, you don't have to answer it, but did you know? Just shake your head if you knew. I knew the answer before I found this question. The answer is Kyler Murray, University of Oklahoma in 2018. Was a transfer. And he originally began his career at Texas A&M. Things didn't exactly work out, so he was on his way, and things I would say worked out pretty well. Shoot, he got a Major League Baseball contract, and then decided, you know what, I'm going to play in the NFL instead. So things have been going pretty well for him for sure. Couple of things here we do want to talk about is for next week. We've got some good things planned. We said we got a little food segment that we're going to get going, right, Coach? And then also. We've got a guest who's familiar to Complete QB for sure, and he's on the radar of a lot of people across the country. Some coaches probably heard him. Next Wednesday night, we'll be right here with Taj Bullock, quarterback at St. Peter's Prep in beautiful Jersey City, New Jersey. He'll be with us. And Coach, what we've been trying to do is get a varied perspective. We'll go with, last week we went with a high school coach. We had Bill Fitzgerald, who's done an amazing job at Seton Hall Prep in West Orange, New Jersey. We obviously stepped to the college ranks tonight to bring you on. And then next week we'll try to get the player perspective. We'll probably skew toward college level quarterbacks, but Taj, I think, has some unique things to share just because he's a highly sought after recruit and that sort of thing. So I think we'll wind up having him as well. So we're very much looking forward to that, and certainly just had a lot of fun here with you tonight, man. You're a fantastic guest, and appreciate
having me.
Absolutely pulling you away from your family here tonight. I'm sure they're zoomed out as well. Where's Daddy? He's on the Zoom clinic right now. He's learning about. He's picking some guy's brain about how to attack 3-3 stack or whatever it is that you're doing on a Zoom call. So, Coach, anything last minute from you, Coach Larson, before we get ready to head up out of here?
No, man, I'm good. Thanks again for having me. And I would be remiss not to say my first job ever coaching was complete QB camps. And
there we go.
Another camp I used to work called Bishop Dullahan camps.
No doubt.
Those are my first two.
Absolutely.
I was going into my first year in college, man. So I appreciate it.
Coach, when you're an NFL head coach, we can return the favor. I want like a $400,000 a year offensive analyst position. If you have them laying around, that's what I need. All right, because I think it'll be fine. I think it'll fit my lifestyle. I have an extravagant lifestyle. So, Coach O'Flaherty, and parting words from you.
Nothing really. Just Coach, really nice catching up with you. We usually wait till the summer camp season to catch up. So hope you and your family are well, and
no doubt
it was a lot of fun. Hopefully next time we'll get you back on, and things will be a little bit smoother down the road.
No doubt.
No worries. No,
Coach, when we bring you back too, we'll probably shift the focus a little bit. We did the get to know you for everybody. When we come back, maybe we'll talk specifics about this quarantine situation as it unfolds, potentially let's talk some actual football. And we tried to skew a little bit away from the scheme stuff right now because everybody's getting beat over the head with the scheme stuff right now. I want to make it a little more conversational, a little more relaxed that way. But for everybody that was enjoying us in the chat, everybody who hung with us and stayed with us, appreciate it. If you missed part of it or you were dealing with our technical issues with our maintaining a stable internet connection, just go ahead and check us in the at Complete QB videos. Follow us there. Follow us at Complete QB on Twitter, please, and Facebook, and at Complete QB 2000 on Instagram. This video will be uploaded in minutes, and you'll be able to review it. And I know that Coach Fitz's video from last week really has gotten several hundred views since we went off air last week. So looking forward to seeing a little bit more. And Coach Bill Fitzgerald, Coach O'Flaherty just checked in, said he's hoping to take you and the Complete QB staff out to Ponchos in Atlanta. So we're looking forward to that for sure. Okay,
there we go.
That should be good stuff for sure. Coach, go get him this year. Let's get an Ivy League title. What is that? Is that Morningside Heights?
Sorry, say it again.
Is it Morningside Heights? Is that the specific neighborhood in Upper Manhattan there? That's pretty fancy name, Coach. Let's bring
Heights. That's right.
Let's bring an Ivy League championship back to Morningside. That would be nice. Okay. Thanks to everybody who